Reverend Bob. This is Reverend Bob from the Drive-In Christian Church, who is with us every week. We appreciate you.
I appreciate the opportunity and invite you to stand as you're able to join me in this invocation. Gracious and Holy One, we come before you this evening to praise you for the protection you provided from the storm. And yet, as we are thankful, we are also mindful of so many in the neighborhoods surrounding our community, in the county of Volusia and many other counties across the state of Florida that were devastated by this storm. The lives of people who lost much, if not everything, are on our hearts and our minds this evening, as well as the many lives that were lost, and the families and extended families and communities that lost them. We pray, O God, that your loving and caring arms will surround them in this time of grief and loss, that you will encourage all of us to rebuild our lives in the ways in which you lead us, and that you will also encourage us to continue to be neighbors and friends, especially to those who are suffering. We ask that you would be in the midst of the proceedings this evening, that you would guide and direct with your wisdom, the wisdom of this council, and the decisions that they must make. In all ways, may we rely upon you for your goodness and your grace, and for all the goodness that you provide for your people, that we would give thanks. We pray these things in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Bob. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So I have a couple things that I'd like to go over under the presentations. One of them is, I don't know how many of you knew her. So this was Mona Goodman. And she was served on many, many boards and was very, very active. She has passed away, and from the city council, the mayor, and staff, we sent flowers, and I attended her memorial, and I just want to read what she said. Dear Mayor, Council, staff at Daytona Beach Shores, thank you so much for the stunning flower arrangement and all of your kind condolences. Mona loved all of you and was so proud to have been the opportunity to have worked with you and to know that you loved her back. Sincerely, Craig and Ruth Goodman, children of Mona. So I just wanted to read that to you. It was a lovely service, and I believe she was 97 years old and truly loved the city. Okay, next what I would like to read is, I did a proclamation for everyone that worked during Hurricane Ian. We have such a wonderful staff, such wonderful directors that gave many, many hours, and so I just felt it was necessary to do this. So, whereas Hurricane Ian struck the state of Florida from September 28th, 2022 through September 29th, 2022, and whereas the city of Daytona Beach Shores experienced a direct hit from the hurricane, suffering wind and rain damage and major beach erosion, and whereas city staff from all departments within the city provided pre-event preparation and post-event recovery services to city structures to protect against damage, as well as ongoing diligence while the storm was present. And whereas city staff are an integral part of our city's everyday lives and contribute greatly during times of emergency conditions as well. And whereas employees of all departments wear many hats in addition to their assigned duties. And whereas city employees perform their duties with professionalism, proficiency, and dedication, and their commitment to city services. Now therefore, I, Nancy Miller, Mayor of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, on behalf of my City Council, hereby wish to thank all of the city staff for their exemplary work, performance, and dedication during the recent event, as well as their daily dedication to the welfare of the cities. I wish to say thank you for your strong work performance. Your positive, can-do attitude has been impressive. You are an example to all. In witness hereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed. Mayor Nancy J. Miller, October 11th, 2022. So that was a What I also felt that I wanted to do, although everybody helped out, we had city staff, and I think it was everybody sitting over there, as well as our city manager, stayed here 24 hours, day and night, slept here to be on call. So the people that did that, as well as we called out extra crew on Saturday and Sunday, I wrote a personal letter thanking them, and I am going to have a copy of that put in each of their personnel files. So now we will go on to, this isn't really the ceremonial, but I wanted to introduce our new chief, Michael Fowler. So last week it was his last meeting, and this is Chief Michael Fowler's first meeting, and he will be pinned next Friday, October 14th. This Friday, October 14th at the Pavilion, 10 o'clock a.m.? Yes, ma'am. So any of you that can be there, we would love to cheer him on. He's been with our city
30 years.
30 years, but in this new capacity, we would love to be able to congratulate him and wish him well. So if anyone could be there, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Okay, next we'll go into the approval of minutes. So this would be the city-county workshop minutes from September 27th, 2022. Do I hear a motion to accept those minutes?
I move we approve the workshop minutes.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Sherry, can you take a roll?
Councilman Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilman Flores?
Yes.
Councilman Montalvo?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. And next, we will move on to the city council minutes from September 27th, 2022. Can someone do a motion for that, please?
I so move. I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on those minutes? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilman Montalvo?
Yes.
Councilman Flores?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Councilman Bryan?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, we do not have anything on the consent agenda this evening, so we'll move right on to our city attorney's report. Attorney Carey, what do you have for us this evening?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, we held a conference with code enforcement staff to advise on a potential condemnation case. A legal review, including members of the opposing counsel, on a piggyback contract. We provided legal review of a public safety department mutual aid agreement that we're entering into upon signing that. We provided a preliminary legal review of an agreement with the Florida Department of Corrections. We had a consultation with staff about an employee personnel issue and worked with staff to draft informational materials and provide legal advice with respect to the new statute communicating with residents about ballot initiatives.
Thank you. Any questions for our city attorney? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our city manager, and I know he has not been busy this week, so I'm hoping he can find something to talk to us about. We're laughing because, as you probably know, for you that live on Beachside, I know there's a lot of people whose homes got flooded and some debris in their yard, but if you take a look at some of our structures on Beachside, you can see that's where the majority of our damage was.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Vice Mayor, members of council. We have a short presentation for you. It may not be that short on the storm. So the last council meeting, we left off with basically my comments were that I had declared a state of emergency that afternoon at 5 o'clock. And that's kind of what we will run through here as soon as I get back to the first slide. And Chief Fowler and Stuart Cruz, our Community Services Director, will each do a part of this as well. So let me get this. All right. So I'm going to jump right into some of the preliminary damage assessments. As of the meeting yesterday, Volusia County had $279 million in estimated damages. I just left a meeting with Representative Leake and Larry Bartlett, the property appraiser office, and they informed me as of today, it's up to $303 million and climbing. So the property appraiser put this in a little chart of all the storms we've had since, I believe, 2004 with Charlie, Francis, and Jean. And I believe right now only Matthew was more total dollars in damage, but we're only 2 weeks out with that number, so expect that number to climb. Our estimate for damage in the shores is $37 million, $11.6 million in building damages, and another $25.4 million in seawall, pool, and east of buildings decking. So we're primarily talking about the condo decks. So the pool and the surrounding amenities. So with this storm kicked off, we had a brief discussion at our regular Wednesday morning meeting of that week and said, oh, there's a storm out there. Okay. So Thursday, we watched for updates. You know, it's going to the Panhandle, not a big deal. But we talked a little bit. Friday, well, it's starting to climb over the state a little bit more. Let's have some more discussions. From that discussions, we said, you know what, it looks like we're going to have wind and rain, so we began Sandbag Distribution on Saturday for our folks. And I'll get into that a little bit more later. So Sunday evening, you'll see this is the path. It was still going way up into kind of the Panhandle, as my wife calls it, the armpit of the state. So really, we're looking at wind and rain for us on that path. By Monday, same time Monday, that was 5 p.m. Sunday. By 5 p.m. Monday, it's coming in Tampa, and it's going to be exiting, putting us in the northeast corner of the storm. And at this point, this is a super wide storm. So we started ramping activities up. So that Tuesday, as I said, we declared a state of emergency. We closed normal operations for the city for Wednesday and Thursday. It was supposed to be out of here by Thursday. We had plans on opening back up on Friday, normal operations. As you're well aware, that did not happen. So that Wednesday, after closing normal operations, we had essential staff report for work. And at 6 p.m. that night, public safety converted to AB shifts. And as the mayor said, on Wednesday, that's when we had essential employees that came in to hunker down for the duration of the storm. Thursday, 2 a.m. is when we stopped responding to calls. So we hunkered down at 6. It was probably 10-ish that night that we really kind of, the rest of us kind of went back to our places we were going to be riding the storm out, City Hall, Public Works, and stuff. And about 2 a.m., we stopped responding to calls. We did have some calls, and Chief Fowler may address that. But at around 2 a.m., because of the high winds, we could not risk the safety of our officers and equipment to respond. And that was well publicized by the sheriff, the county emergency management folks. And this is what happens in every storm. When the winds reach a certain speed, we have to stop. So that was 2 a.m. That morning, about 9:40, I was sitting in the chief's office, captain at the time, and we said, oh, the winds have settled down. Let's go out for a look. We're driving around. We were out there 10, 15 minutes. The wind started picking up, and then a piece of roof hit our car. And we said, okay, it's time to go back in. So we hunkered back down till about 2, maybe 2:30. And at that point, we went back out, and that's when the community service department started to shine. They got out there, they started clearing the roads, clearing stormwater drains so that things would start to drain properly. And as they were able to access things, the building officials and public safety began assessing property for these life safety issues. At that point, we said, nobody's coming in for Friday, so we continued the cancellation of normal city operations. On Friday, we were able to get the rest of the community services crews in, so we had all personnel out working on the streets on Friday, clearing debris, storm drains, assessing things like our walkovers, and either taping them off or barricading them off. We pretty much lost every dune crossover there is. The only set of steps that I remember seeing on my trip on the beach that looked intact, of all things, were Treasure Island. Sorry. It's the only ones I saw, so. But that, to the mayor's proclamation, thank you, Mayor, for doing that. And our folks did step up in all sorts of levels. They were here on Saturday doing the same monitoring of the buildings, as you are aware. We'll get into some of it in a little bit later on things that we had to declare unsafe and evacuate. So you're aware of who we had here. We had the full management team, as the mayor said. Everybody, all the department heads were here, and they assumed many different duties. So your finance director actually went out to the EOC. Sherry learned damage assessment. She worked with our building folks, and before the event, she was getting all the calls at City Hall from all the floors, taking all of those calls that she doesn't normally get and assisting. So everybody stepped up in their different roles. As I mentioned, we had staff staying in 3 different buildings: City Hall, Public Works, and the Public Safety Building. Ideally, we would all be in one building, but we don't have a building that would handle that many people. And it was crowded down at Public Safety. And poor Lori had to sleep in a mass room with all these other people from the county, out of the county EOC.
And City Manager, can you, I know you're saying that she was there, but can you expand on it a little bit more? When I was out there on Saturday meeting Senator Rubio, the county staff could not stress enough how important it was to have one person out there. And I think we saw the results of that we got things handled very quickly. We passed them on to Lori. She had everybody right there, so.
Absolutely. So what happens is with Lori being out there, so they tried with some cities what they called virtual EOC, where you were just online. But I can tell you that Lori was able to she has an assigned desk area, but she's able to get up and walk over to whether it was Tico Gas or FPL and say, here's our issue, and talk directly rather than submitting it online, hoping that you have internet connection, that it gets out there and everything. So it was invaluable to have, in my opinion, invaluable to have somebody out there in that role.
And not every city took advantage of that, which I was surprised.
Correct. So Sandbag Distribution, as we said, we started on Saturday. We were open from 9 to 5, Sunday 9 to 5. On Saturday and Sunday, we were one of the only locations other than the county that was open. So unfortunately, we had to turn away probably just as many people that we gave sandbags to, because they were not citizens or property owners in Daytona Beach Shores. We had a lot of people that didn't want to have to drive all the way out to the county, even though they were county properties, a block or a parcel away from the shores.
And also, did we update that policy, though, based on our chief's recommendation if they were, oh no, that was the passes.
The passes, yes. So at the same time of doing sandbags, we were handing out the passes to citizens and to expedite access over the bridge if we had to limit access. Anybody, if they could show proof that they lived or had a business or had proof that they were working in a business here, we would give them a pass. But only citizens got sand and sandbags. If we had not limited that, we would have been cleaned out of sand and sandbags probably on Saturday. We continued sandbags on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday morning, but we pretty much ran out of sand. We went through over 6,500 sandbags, and 72 cubic yards of sand. That's a lot of sand. And this is a Stuart. Stuart?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Stuart Cruz, Community Services Director. Shut off. So as the city manager mentioned, we had a skeleton crew here in the city to basically, during a storm, to basically be the first response in terms of community services department response to the storm, meaning getting guys out there to ensure that the sewer is good, that we don't have any kind of backflows with the sewer system, to clear the streets so that the public safety officers and eventually citizens can basically traverse the street network. And so we had 9 key employees here, and one of them is here with us tonight, Steve Edmonds, who's our building official. He was there with us during the storm. After the storm, we had almost the entire department there available to help with the cleanup, basically 25 employees. So there were a lot of things that we had to do to get the city ready, and also construction sites ready for the storm. But in general, what we did was we kept close communication with the city manager and other department heads in terms of planning and coordination meetings, and we also had our own internal meetings to basically carry out the assigned duties pre-storm, during the storm, and post-storm. Essentially, we cycled all our equipment, vehicles, generators. We charged all handheld communication radios, devices that we needed for communication, and of course, we acquired food supplies for the storm response crew because we really didn't know how fast the storm was going to get out of here, or whether it was going to get out of here within any reasonable period of time. And so, obviously, we needed to have food for these folks. In terms of preparation for the streets, we cleaned all the stormwater inlets, and some people might think that's not something that makes sense, but we do that because we want to minimize localized flooding. We know that here on Beachside there isn't generally a flooding issue unless it's localized flooding, so we wanted to avoid that, and we cleaned out all the inlets, we removed all the street banners, flags, etc., and we assisted public safety when necessary at every step along the way, and particularly when it came to barricade setup and vehicle mobilization to secure the city and the bridge. From the park's perspective, we secured all the sunscreens, sunshades, umbrellas, anything that could essentially become a possible airborne missile or cause any kind of injury or damage to infrastructure and to properties and obviously people. On the sewer side, we secured all the lift station, the master station, the sites, the equipment, everything that was outside, we brought them in. We filled up our auxiliary diesel tanks to ensure that we had, essentially diesel to power any sort of mobile device that we had, such as our bypass pumps, because sometimes during storms, because of something called I&I, infiltration, basically from the exterior of the system, those things can overwhelm the pump stations, and essentially we would need a bypass pump to deal with that matter so that we don't have backflow of sewer into folks' condos and homes. And of course, we readied all powered equipment. On the building side, the building department essentially contacted all contractors to secure their job sites. We called to reschedule all inspections that were already on the books. And the building official also surveyed all the city buildings to ensure that there wasn't any kind of potential safety issue that would come about as a result of the storm. On the building and maintenance side, of course, we secured the buildings, installed shutters, batten vulnerable components of the different properties that we have, and removed airborne items. On the electrical side, we secured, as much as we can, the street light system and the electrical cabinets that basically powered the street lights that we have here in Daytona Beach Shores. So code enforcement. Our code enforcement officer, coordinator, Gwen Herstein, she's really good at what she does, and one of the many things that she does here is she's actually our lead when it comes to the damage assessment for FEMA purposes. So in Volusia County, there is a system that's called IDAM, which is basically just a damage assessment tool, and we utilize that. All the cities in the county utilize it to basically come up with that preliminary damage assessment costs to provide to FEMA, so FEMA can declare the county or the area as an emergency area. So the code enforcement helped with that. You heard the city manager mention earlier that the city clerk also participated in that. Code enforcement also contacted property owners that had anything, any kind of signs, any kind of chairs or tables or anything that could become missiles during this event to basically secure those. And she also retrieved any illegal signage that were in the right-of-way On the street side, post-storm, this is just an overview of the damage that we observed and that we had to deal with. There was temporary isolated flooding on Oceans West Boulevard, as some of you may know, South Peninsula Drive, and a few local streets. There was plenty of loss and damage, street signs. There was also a temporary loss of traffic signal functions. However, as you probably know, all streets are now open and all the city traffic lights and signals are operational. Some streets, unfortunately, will require some upgrades in terms of stormwater design, and we hope to address that through the CIP process. On the park side, all parks essentially suffered some damage, whether it was trees or down signage or fences. All the Dune Walkovers, as city manager mentioned, are basically destroyed. There is some additional cleanup and work that's pending with regards to the city parks, but the city parks are essentially open and safe. And I basically just mentioned the other two things I mentioned there. In total, we have collected over 120 cubic yards of street and park debris. And that's basically, I want to say, 6 of those large roll-off dumpsters that we had that you have seen around. And those were kind of split evenly with regards to construction and demolition debris and also vegetation debris. On the sewer side, the city has over 21 miles of lines, and we also have, as I mentioned, 11 lift stations and the master station, and we were fortunate enough to not have any major damage. 8 of the lift stations and the master lost power temporarily. 5 of the lift station actually lost phone connection, and the phone connection is basically a redundancy system that we have. We get a call whenever there's something going on, something not right. And so we did lose phone connection temporarily, but eventually was resolved. We didn't have any sewer backup at any of the stations. We didn't have any reported or discernible stormwater inflow or infiltration by groundwater, which is always a good thing because that stresses the system and causes the backups. There wasn't any reported line breaks or backup, as I mentioned, and as of today, all stations are operational and on FPL power. In terms of potable water, even though we're not the providers, it's the city of Daytona Beach and the city of Port Orange, depending on where you are in the city, there wasn't any reported boil water notice, and we only received 1 water service line break, and that has now been fixed. So, with regards to seawalls and erosions, as of 10/6, we had 54 out of our 170 shoreline properties impacted. That number has now changed. I believe the number is now 68, but using this snapshot in time, 54 of those were impacted. 9 of those 54s were deemed severe, and those are being monitored daily by our chief building official and also our lieutenant for support services, Lieutenant Metters in the Public Safety Department. 3 of those 9s have been posted as unsafe, and I think everyone has heard of that. The Hawaiian Inn, White Surf, and the Sun Globe Pier Krabby Joe's parking lot. Adjacent to the Hawaiian Inn and the White Surf condos, there has been a demarcation of a safety zone in the event of a collapse. The analysis and assessments are ongoing by both the building department and the public safety department. And again, this is just a snapshot of this particular date with regards to seawalls and erosion. With regards to damage throughout the city of non-city facilities, the damage was citywide, both to internal and external building systems. We did not observe or get any reports of any riverine or basically riverside flooding, which is always a good thing. In terms of the city's 8 buildings, the impacts were from none observed to major. City Hall got some minor water intrusion. We lost some spalled concrete. Public safety had some roof damage, fascia, and some other components of the roof system that was damaged. And we already have a roofer who's going to be coming. Who went out earlier today, I believe, and will be coming back later this week. And there was some water intrusion, as I mentioned. And this is the primary or the main public safety building. The public safety annex, which is the building where the mechanic bays and the fleet maintenance is located, along with the gym and another component. They essentially, I was advised today, at first we thought it was just partial damage, but now I've been told by our building officials that it's complete damage of the roof system, and so that will have to be replaced. The other place that we received minor damage is right here at the community center. We lost some gutters, fascia, and some other minor things as well. The pavilion also lost some gutters and fans, and the fans have actually already been replaced because we heard there's a really important event on Friday. So in terms of signs on private property, non-conforming signs in particular, 44 existed prior to the hurricane, and now, based on our assessment, there's only 28 that are remaining and eligible for a copy change. So basically, I believe we've lost 16 that won't be able to be rebuilt. The deadline for replacing those signs is April 11, 2023. In terms of recovery efforts on the building side, permits are still required. The building department is monitoring for unlicensed contractors, and tonight, you may see in the agenda, may recall that we have in the agenda resolution 2022-10, which, if it's approved by the council, will basically waive the local city building permit and inspection fees. So I just wanted to put that out there. On the seawall and erosion side, when it comes to temporary non-structural erosion safety control measures, a Volusia County permit is required, and examples that we have been given include that would fall under that would include replacement of beach-compatible sand, installation of sandbags weighing not more than 100 pounds, and of course filled with beach-compatible material, or the installation of sheet piles or boards without tiebacks or caps. If the work that is being proposed to secure the site doesn't fall under that, then it would be classified as a permanent structural erosion control measure in which Florida Department of Environmental Protection Coastal Construction Control Line, or CCL, permit would be required. And at that point, then the Volusia County and the city would also have to be involved. So the city is not requiring any permit for any temporary or safety measure on the seawall side and erosion control side. So what we are recommending to everyone is to seek the advice of a Florida licensed professional engineer, and also seek advice and utilize Florida licensed contractors. And we are monitoring to try to ensure as best as possible that there aren't any kind of unlicensed contractor work here in the city. But of course, things sometimes, happen. So we're doing the best that we can. I do have some handouts from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection that kind of gives a guide as to work on the seawall side of things. And also have a handout that we delivered, the city manager and the public safety department delivered, and I believe Nancy Maddox as well, delivered to all the condos and hotels on Beachside that may have incurred seawall and erosion damage as well. And with that said, now to the chief.
Thank you. As the city manager said, we went to an Alpha Bravo shift on Wednesday at 6 p.m. What that means is we brought in all of our staff and kept them throughout the remainder of the event. It's incumbent upon us to make sure that we have enough people here to take care of any emergencies that occur. Every agency in the area is going to be impacted by these types of things, so it's hard to find mutual aid in these cases. And it's essential for us to make sure that our folks don't go home and end up getting stuck at home. So we had 32 staff in-house. In addition to that, we brought members of our support staff in who basically helped support us during that time through cooking, cleaning, helping us out with bedding, all the things that you have to do as far as that goes. So beforehand, we developed an operational plan. Similar to the other operational plans that we've done over the years, we found them to be successful. One significant difference in this is the county never issued an evacuation for our people. We talked about the passes earlier. Those passes are, once folks have evacuated, you know that we've stood guard on the bridges in the past and only allowed our residents and people who need to be here. This was different because people didn't get told to leave the areas, and that definitely impacted people. Beforehand, we took drone video of the entire city so that we could show pre and post storm. We had officers go around and talk about potential hazards. Some folks still had their lawn furniture out on their balconies, and those things obviously become projectiles. We manned the Sandbag Distribution site. We did our supply procurement, which I talked about how we supported our folks. and we converted our building over so that the second floor was living quarters. On patrol during this event, we made 2 arrests for loitering and prowling. They also had drugs with them, but the reason that that's significant, that's not a big charge, is they were clearly here to loot. So we immediately, upon the storm setting in and thereafter, when we can get back on the road, those are the kind of people that we start looking for. And there was no question in our officers' mind that that's why they were here. During the event, we responded to or received 279 police calls and 102 fire calls. So that is an astronomical number compared to what we would see in a normal 48-hour period. I will tell you that we did see services at 2 o'clock in the morning. That is a county-wide standard as far as firefighters. At 45 miles an hour, everybody stops. And even if we felt like we could get to a call, we choose not to respond because evac's not coming. So now we're going to end up at a call. Our people are out there at risk, and there's nobody to take this person to the hospital. We also had a fire that we did not respond to. It put itself out, luckily. But we did have several calls that we couldn't get to. At least 2 building collapses. They turned out to be roof and ceiling collapses, but I think you probably read about one of them in the paper that was right across the street from the station, but it wasn't safe to put our people out. I coordinated in advance with the other chiefs of police regarding the closing of the bridges. That's not a decision that individual cities make. That was an FDOT request. At 39 miles an hour, sustained winds, and they define sustained winds as 1 minute constant wind speed over 39, the bridges are to be shut, and they're not to be reopened until there's an inspection after the storm. So you have to wait for FDOT to come out and do an inspection, and we did that in conjunction with the other beachside communities. Once we did that, we still had quite a bit of traffic in town, and that concerns us. When people board up their properties and leave, we're concerned about who's here when they're not. So we put checkpoints at the north and south city limits to make sure that the only people that were coming through here were people that belonged here and had reason to be here. After the storm, we had a tremendous gas leak at the pier. As soon as you drove anywhere near that area, you could certainly smell the gas, and that affected the ALF that's right down the road on Cardinal Boulevard from them. They had a generator that ran off of the piped natural gas, and it was failing because there was insufficient pressure in the line because of the gas leak. So they reached out to us and let us know that they anticipated that they only had another couple of hours that they could sustain the oxygen that they had on hand without electricity. They were also concerned about the temperatures with their clients, and they were afraid that they were going to lose people, that people were going to die. So we were working on it in our own capacity, and we were coordinating with Lori at the EOC, at the county EOC, and City Manager Swartzlander said, well, we've got our community center, the building we're in right now. It's got a generator. Instead of letting these folks die, let's get them there. So we coordinated with the ALF. We started bringing people in. Nancy did a great job of getting the building ready, and Eddie came and helped, and I'm sure there were others that came and helped, and we started getting folks in. And if I'm not mistaken, they said it would be 2 days until Tico Gas could get to our gas leak. Well, we saw the Tico gas truck, and Lieutenant Metters commandeered them and took them down and got that fixed and got the gas turned back on and got them up and running. So I think about midnight, the last folks from the ALF were taken out of here and taken back to their facility. But
Chief, for the people that don't know, ALF is Assisted Living Facility.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah,
So, I didn't know at the beginning
Can I just
either.
add one piece based on a comment the mayor made earlier? So Tico told us actually that they wouldn't have been here till Monday or Tuesday. But through the conversations with Lori out at the EOC, it got to the county hazmat folks who got to Tico and said, get out there. And then they commandeered them and made it happen. I just want to add that was that's an integral reason why we need to have somebody out there and have that staff.
And I wanted to comment because you'd mentioned having someone out there in talks with the other police chiefs since the event. I spoke to one who did not, in fact, have somebody at the EOC, and he said, we will never do that again. He said the service that the city's got that had people there compared to what they got was not comparable. So afterwards, we sent the drone out immediately. We got drone documentation of the damage very quickly. We cordoned off dangerous areas and unsecured businesses. Tres Leches, they had their front window blown out almost immediately when the storm started. Our officers found it at night, went in, secured their iPads and all the cash from the cash register, got that out of there, and they were able to come recover that later. But the problem was, once that was open, the wind came through, and if you've seen Pappas Plaza, it's mostly destroyed. You know, all those businesses have been gutted. Also, the chief building official and Lieutenant Metters went around and did their inspections and determined that the Hawaiian Inn and Surfside, or White Surf, were both unsafe. And they facilitated an evacuation of both of those. That evacuation was done by management initially. And every day, twice a day, Lieutenant Metters has gone back on the weekends too to monitor how bad that damage has gotten. Do we have pictures of that for later?
We do later, yes.
So I won't go into that. We've enhanced our patrols, like I said, against looters and property crimes. And then we conducted this Saturday, Lieutenant Metters came out, City Manager Swartzlander and I rode around with FEMA. It was the FEMA investigator that had done the
Surfside collapse.
yeah, the Surfside collapse in Miami, and the Florida Department of Emergency Management. And they came out and made an assessment and agreed with our chief building official and Lieutenant Metters that 2 of those properties were in danger of imminent collapse. After that, they also shared with us concerns that they learned in other situations where management had conducted these evacuations. They were concerned that that wouldn't be thorough enough. So Lieutenant Metters stayed until midnight on Saturday night and then was back all day on Sunday this weekend, going physically room to room through each one of these condos and then sealing each one of those with tape, tamper tape, and then doing the same thing to the exterior to make sure, should we have a collapse, that we won't have to put people at risk to go in and rescue folks. So, I think that's basically all I have.
So our focus now has turned to coastal erosion and building safety. As the chief said, we are monitoring that daily. We are getting calls from businesses and citizens on the east side, primarily relating to permitting issues. As Mr. Cruz mentioned, we don't do the permitting for the temporary measures. And that's what most of the condos are at. It's at the county level right now through an executive order allowing them emergency authority, but they're still under the guidelines of FDEP. So fortunately, we did hear that somebody actually got a permit today. So that's one. We'll have to see how quickly others, but through all of this, we have been trying to reach out to everybody at the county, the state that we can. And I have to give kudos to the mayor. She opened up communication with Representative Leake's office, who got us in touch with the governor's office. And we were just shortly before the meeting on a call with Rick Scott's office. So we are getting to people. Excuse me. I've been talking all day, if you can't tell. So people are frustrated, though, and I understand that frustration. It's their homes, it's their lives that are being impacted, and so we're trying to do everything as we can as staff to assist them in the process. I'm hoping tomorrow to hear from the governor's office that they are doing something to lessen this. I make no promises. This is stuff I've heard from the folks of the county, and we've been hearing some stuff since like Saturday, but we have their attention. I had another meeting today with Representative Leak out at his office, and we were on a virtual call with the governor's office again. Not the governor himself, but the second in command up there. So the message for not just Daytona Beach shores, but Ponce, Wilbur by the Sea, the shores, Daytona, Ormond, our voice is beginning to be heard up there, and we're going to continue to do everything. So, Mayor, thank you for your efforts on that side. She's been working the phones tirelessly as well. So we are doing everything we can, but it is a challenge. And I'm going to ask people to understand that even though the county can issue a permit, their hands are still tied by the DEP regulations. So we do understand that there is now a local rep on site in Daytona Beach, and that's how this one condo got their permit today. They went and were able to meet with the rep and somehow got their permit pretty much in a day. So
We're going to keep
it's a
trying.
struggle. We're going to keep trying, keep pushing. We've asked for options on all of these things. The biggest issue is that sand and sandbag limit. But as was mentioned, we have had to declare unsafe 2 buildings, 3, but I'm only focusing on 2. The pier is sort of in our jurisdiction, not in our jurisdiction, but we've declared the parking lot unsafe. I don't have a picture of that one. This is the white surf. So what you see is actually, at the bottom of that, you'll see some debris down there. That's not their seawall, that's actually the balcony from that unit that you see right in the corner. You see the balcony above it? Well, there was one just like it below it, but it's now down on the beach. So it's at the building, and that's probably the worst one, I would say. We also had to evacuate 3515 and 3513, which are right next door, because those are in the collapse zone. If this building goes down, it will go down on those 2 homes, possibly. The other one is the Hawaiian Inn. We declared it unsafe. As the chief mentioned, it's been evacuated and searched. This one, I looked at these pictures and went, well, that wall's still pretty far away. But it's my understanding those black columns on the outside, they're not for decoration. They're the support structure. So when you look at that, it's not far from that. And that's a big part of the reason. And I'm going to try and play a couple of videos for you that are just snapshots. We have probably hours and hours and hours worth of video. But I have probably a total of like 5 or 6 minutes here that are just an overview of different sections of the seawalls, in case you have not been able to get down there. But you can even see some seawalls that look intact, still have damage behind them. So like this one had the seawall looks intact, but you can see behind it, everything is crumbling. And there's our looky-loos trying to get pictures and realize somebody was there. This is one of our Dune Walkovers. You can see it is not accessible, and I'm going to go ahead and stop it. It's more of the same. And
Up and down the beach.
up and down the beach, yes. and the number keeps climbing. You know, I had a report Sunday of somebody else who said, oh, we thought our seawall was fine, but now we have sinkholes forming behind the wall. So we continue to monitor, continue to take reports, and we'll do everything we can to keep our citizens safe. One last little bit. So, as you're aware, as was mentioned, the city's cleaned up about 120 cubic yards with city staff. We also have a contract with Waste Pro to come in and do all of the debris at citizens' homes. We cannot pick up on commercial property. Most of our commercial property is on A1A, and that would be handled by FDOT. But we did a first sweep of the city this past Saturday, and they collected 31.97 tons of vegetative debris. We have to keep it separate, or the county landfill charges us the high price of C&D for all the vegetation. So we keep it separated. So this coming Saturday, they'll pick up again with collection. During the week, they're doing our normal pickups of trash. And this Saturday, they will be collecting both vegetative and C&D, or construction and demolition debris. And then what will happen is we will probably wait a couple more weeks and then do a final pass through. And we have to have a monitoring service to be reimbursed by FEMA. So Waste Pro is picking up the debris. Redmond Consulting Group is our debris monitor. They follow along and have to do GPS on each location, and that will help determine whether FEMA will pay for it or not. So if it's in a city right of way, we pick it up and then we'll submit it all to FEMA. Normally FEMA pays 75%, the state pays 12.5%, and then the city has to pick up the other 12.5%. We are pushing to pick it up quickly. They have extended, I believe, for 60 days at 100%. So we're trying to push to get it all as quickly as we can. So I know that's probably the longest city manager report I ever hope to give in the city, but if there's questions, I'm glad to answer them.
Well, first of all, I want to start out, when I did the proclamation before, can you see the reason why, when you look what work, do we not have a wonderful staff, wonderful employees? I mean, again, can we just give them a round of applause? And we are so blessed to have everyone here. I don't have any questions right now because I feel like we talk 22 times a day, but does anybody else have any questions for our city manager?
Those police and fire calls, over what time period was that?
I believe that was during the 48-hour period.
48 hours.
My staff put that together, so I don't have the specific time. But I can tell you that the county dispatch, central dispatch received 14 times the number of 911 and 7-digit calls that they would during that time period. Obviously, we're way above that because we were, one of the hardest hit areas.
Do you know how many of those, I think it was close to 300 or 400 police and fire calls were not responded to?
I don't know how many we were not able to respond to, but we do eventually respond to all of them. We go to an alternate dispatch system. All those calls are logged. They clear them out because the dispatcher can't have 200 calls on his or her screen that they have to keep track of, and then we log those and go back in and handle all those calls for service afterwards. So.
Okay, any other questions for our chief? Thank you, chief. Okay, no other questions. We will move along. Again, thank you for that presentation. I think it gave everyone a better perspective of what we were dealing with. We don't have any old business, so we're going to move on to new business. And this is Ordinance 2022-16, an annexation. Attorney Karen, can you read that for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is Ordinance 2022-16, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Voluntary County, Florida, relating to voluntary annexation of real property located at 2822 South Atlantic Avenue, short parcel identification number 532705000980, together with associated rights of way in accordance with section 171.0444 statutes, providing for legislative and administrative findings, redefining the boundaries of the city, providing for legal effects and implementing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and setting an effective date. And this is first reading.
Thank you. Okay, our new city planner, for you that haven't met, this is Noelle Eaton. And how long have you been with us now, Noelle?
About a month.
Okay,
and 2 weeks.
well, welcome. If you want to tell us a little bit about this, and then this is a public participation, correct?
This is first reading, so we don't have to allow public participation.
Thank you.
But you can if you want to.
Thank you, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Noelle Eaton, City Planner. This is ordinance number 2022-16. This is a voluntary annex application request from the property owner at 2822 South Atlantic Avenue. This is a street view of the property on the left. The property owner is Peter and Vanessa Trong and Dog Pound LLC, which you'll see on the application is Krista Goodrich. The property is approximately 14,250 square feet, 75 by 190, and is located at that 2822 South Atlantic Avenue. The existing use is a single-family residence, and the proposed use is going to be the exact same, being that single-family residence. This is just the application for annexation. This is a location map of the property. You can kind of tell the colors are a little hard. This property abuts the city of Daytona Beach shores on the east property line, which South Atlantic Avenue and the properties on the east side are within the city limits. So that is where it is contiguous with the city limits. This is just an aerial view of the same property showing this single-family district, allowing single-family homes, which is what they're allowed in the county and what they would be allowed in the city as well. All public notice requirements and voluntary annexation criteria per section 171.044 of the Florida statutes have been met, and city staff is recommending approval of ordinance 2022-16 as presented. If you have any questions, thank you.
I don't have any questions right now. Does anyone?
Madam Mayor, I have a question. Ms. Noel, could you go back a couple of, is the shaded light green, are those the properties that are within the city limits, or are those the ones that are not?
The green is the city limits of Daytona Beach shores.
Okay,
And then
okay.
the gray is Volusia County, and I believe the orange at the top is Daytona Beach.
Okay. All right, so basically all the oceanfront ones are in this person, okay, thank you.
And I'm going to open this up. Does anyone in the audience have anything to say about ordinance 2022-16? Okay, if not, do I hear a motion to approve ordinance 2022-16?
I move we approve 2022-16.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Plius?
Yes.
Councilmember Calamos?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. Do we have the residents for that property here, for 2822 South Atlantic? Well, if you're listening in, welcome. We're glad to have you in the city. We do have a second reading at the next one, but we're on to a good start. Thank you very much. We hope to have you very happy here on the shores. Noelle, if you want to come up, I'm sorry, Attorney Carey, can you read first, please, 2022-17?
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance number 2022, an ordinance of the city of Daytona Beach, Volusia County, Florida, relating to voluntary annexation of real property located at 2820 South Atlantic Avenue, short parcel identification number 532705000971, together with associated rights of way in accordance with section 171.0444 statutes, providing for legislative and administrative findings, redefining the boundaries of the city, providing for legal effect and implementing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and setting an effective date. And this is also first reading, so no public comment is required.
Thank you. Noelle?
Good evening again, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Noelle Eaton, City Planner. This is going to get redundant, but this is Ordinance 2022-17. This is an annexation, a voluntary annexation application for 2820 South Atlantic Avenue. This is a street view of the property from South Atlantic Avenue. The property owner is Belinda Jenkins. The size is 75 by 186, and again is at that 2820 South Atlantic Avenue. This is directly north of the property you just saw. Again, this existing use is a single-family residential, and the proposed use is continuing that single-family residential use. This is the location map. It looks just similar to the last one. It's just the property to the north, again, contiguous on the east side on South Atlantic Avenue. This is another aerial showing the exact same neighborhood with single-family homes along South Atlantic and then along Ridge Avenue as well. The public notice requirements and voluntary annexation criteria of the Florida statute have been met. I did want to add that city staff had verbal communication today about some potential code violations in the county that we're looking into and are going to research further by contacting the county, and then provide a little bit more clarification and recommendation at our next meeting, which is the second reading for this. But tonight, staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 2022-17 as presented. Thank you.
Any questions for Noel? Okay, if not, it isn't mandatory, but is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on 2820 South Atlantic? Okay, if you'd like to come up. Okay, when you do come up, please state your name and address. Just pull the microphone down. Just tell us what your name and address are.
Alice Klein,
And what is your address, Alice?
2816 South Atlantic Avenue, Daytona Beach.
Okay, thank you.
I'm in the unincorporated area, and I am the next door neighbor to the north of this property in question. And I'm not certain for the reason this property is being asked to join the shores, but we have a problem with this neighbor having dogs, and they're constantly barking. There's a lot of dogs, I'm not sure how many.
Excuse me. Go ahead
I
and
hate
continue.
to say my age, but I have to have naps now, like a baby. And the barking, sometimes these dogs are on the pool deck, which is very close to my bedroom, and they bark a lot, day and night. So I'm not for this, because I think that the reason they may be joining the shores is to their advantage, somehow connected with the dogs. But this is the neighbor to the north of me, and I've asked her to speak for me as well as others.
Certainly, and please, may we have your name and address?
Of course. I'm Dr. Hadassah Aronson, and I live at 2814 South Atlantic Avenue. I'm actually 2 houses from the home in question. I wasn't aware that there was a meeting tonight, or I would have acted sooner. But when Alice called me, she asked if I would, so I said I would look into. Concerns were raised. We moved here to the shores and love it. Came about April of 2021. and have really enjoyed it. About a month or two after that property was purchased, and at that time, we heard the dogs, and we weren't, you know, we thought, well, it's just a small thing, but it turns out that she is a breeder in the neighborhood. And so I asked about that. I actually came to the Shores to ask, because we live in the Shores, and was told that they couldn't help me, that this was Volusia County, and it's also City of Daytona. So during the course of the year, when Alice asked me today, I said, well, I will look into it for them to see what's happened over the course of the last year. And I went to the courthouse for the county and also for the City of Daytona. There's a FOIA records pending from there.
Okay.
There's a question about how many code issues or violations there already are from having built an apartment in the garage that's being rented out currently. So there are questions about whether there's a permit or not permitted. Those aren't really my concerns. I just want to have a quiet, nice neighborhood. And it really has been an ugly year. It's unfortunate we don't even want to sit outside anymore and deal with it. Today, when I did go to the courthouse, there are currently, between October of '21 and the last one filed, it looks like June of this year, 9 citations for that property owner having to do with animal control, loose animals, animals chasing people down the street. I know she is a breeder, and when I asked today at the Shores, I said, well, how would this change? If they become in the Shores, do the rules change as far as renting, keeping places up to code, and is there parking? I mean, who will monitor all of this? And who monitors animal control? And when I was, they were very kind. You guys are wonderful, really. Everyone who works in your offices are amazing. But it turns out that you only have a 1-sentence animal code, 1 sentence. And essentially it says that you can have up to 4 animals that need rabies requirement, except if they're puppies. And you can keep puppies up to 6 months, which means you could breed 40 puppies, as long as you sell them within 6 months. This could really turn into a bigger disaster than it's already been. There's been 2 or 3 litters a year already with animals loose, and I think in one of the citations it even said there was 1 deceased in front of the house. They've been loose, running. The barking is really horrible. People, I think, have done their best. I think the county's done their best. I'm assuming there is a reason or a benefit moving forward. My real concern was, when I saw the letter, is that this is just to annex. That there'll be more hearings as far as changing zoning. And this was, we understood when we purchased it was the neighborhood. We thought we bought into a neighborhood, not a breeding place or a dog kennel or, and really there's only 2 or 3 feet around the garage where these dogs are kept. I think it's a safety issue. And so I think that's the concern, and I'm not the only neighbor. The complaint did not come from 1 people. There are 9 on file from multiple neighbors. So I just think it's an issue, and Alice had asked if it could be raised as a concern, and if the council would at least take it into consideration. I don't know if it makes a difference to be in the Shores. Maybe if they're in the Shores, then all the code enforcement will come to you all. Like the noise complaints will come to your police department, or the animal enforcement will be, you may inherit that issue.
Well, thank you very much for coming in today, Alice. Thank you very much for coming in. Normally, the way that people are is that the Shores has the most stringent code enforcement, and that's some of the reasons why they don't want to come into the Shores. We have an excellent code enforcement officer. I heard Ms. Eaton talk about that she knows that there might be some issues. I feel certain that she will check into them as long as our code officer does as well, and we will see what happens.
And she was lovely, thank you. But they showed us that there is currently no animal code other than 1 sentence.
And that's something we might have to look to. And Alice, I was confused. Do you live in the Shores?
No, that is one little area that people live in the Shores, Daytona Beach, and it's unincorporated, so I'm actually in Volusia County.
And Doctor, you're in the Shores, though.
Yes, we are.
Just
2814, 2 houses down, we are in Shores.
I have a question, I guess for Stuart. Are the county and the city requirements different with regard to dogs and noise
So this is Stuart Cruz. So I am not intimately familiar with the county code with regards to animal control and things of that nature. But what I can tell you is that based on the description that I've heard tonight, the 4 animals would be permitted on the property. I can tell you one of the reasons, and echo what the mayor said earlier, one of the reasons why people don't want to come to the shores is because of our very vigilant code enforcement department division. People do want to come to the shores because we have lower taxes, we've paid off all our debts, we have a better response time in terms of, administrative and law enforcement abilities. So that is the reason why I suspect the property owner may be coming in here, trying to annex into shores. I can tell you, I did speak with the property owner after the doctor came in today, and I did ask her about whether or not she's breeding dogs there, and she told me, and this is her word, that they're not breeding dogs there, that they have 4 dogs there, and one of them had puppies some time ago. And that the puppy actually, again, she's calling the puppy, escaped the property. But yes, I'm not intimately familiar with the county's animal control codes.
Okay, so that's why I said that they'll do their due diligence. I think they just became aware that there's an issue, so you duly noted between you and Gwen if you'll continue with that diligence.
Well, yeah, it's one thing to enforce codes more strictly, but it also depends on whether the code itself is different. And so if the county has a much stricter, for example, that may be one reason why they want to get in the shores. But I guess the council has the power to change the requirements if we want to.
Absolutely. If the city council pleases, that is something that totally, they're able to do. So we are looking into the matter. We will have a more categorical recommendation at the second reading.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Yes, Vice Mayor.
It sounds to me, though, that this could also involve a lot more activity on our city because of complaints. So that's something that we need to consider. Do we want to bring somebody in that's going to cause a lot of complaints in our city and use up our city's staff's valuable time?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to offer a motion to postpone making a decision whether to annex this property or not, to allow our staff to make an investigation and maybe to allow the other jurisdictions to adjudicate the merits of those complaints before they become a candidate to come in. I agree with the Vice Mayor. Why do we want to inherit a problem that another agency is already working on? You want to come to the city, I think you got to come in with clean hands.
I'll second that.
All right, so so that's your motion?
Yes, that was my motion, that we postpone annexing or considering the first reading of this, annexing this particular property until our staff can make a investigation.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
Any further discussion?
Do you want to postpone it to a specific date so that we can?
I'd like to make it indefinite because I don't know how long it'll take for staff to get the answers they need.
Okay, we'll bring it back to first reading.
Whenever they feel that it's time to bring it back to us, I think.
Is that fine with you, or do you have a time? Do you want a 2-3 week time? What would work for you?
With everything going on right now, I certainly think we could at least have a recommendation by the 25th, but we may need more time. It's just uncertain as to what is actually out there.
All right, so do we want to make a date certain right now for October 25th, and if we need to postpone it again, we will?
Yes, I'm
Okay,
fine with
so,
that.
all right, do you
Okay
want to?
with that. Yeah,
All
that's
right,
fine.
can you revise your?
Sure, I'll amend the motion to reflect a deadline date of October 25th. However, the staff is free to come back and ask for additional time if necessary.
Second is amended.
Thank you. All right, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Platus?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Councilmember Calamos?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to ordinance 2022-18. Attorney Carey, can you read that one for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 2022-18, an ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach, Voluntary County, Florida, relating to voluntary annexation of real property located at 3615 Cardinal Boulevard, Fort Worth, ID number 6302-05100111, together with associated rights of way in accordance with section 171.044 Florida statutes. providing for legislative and administrative findings, redefining the boundaries of the city, providing for legal effects and implementing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and setting an effective date.
Okay, thank you. City Plenary.
This is again first readings and no public hearings required.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Noelle Eaton, City Planner. This is Ordinance 2022-18. This is the voluntary annexation request from 3615 Cardinal Boulevard. There is a street view on the left of the property. The property owner is Teresa Durkin. The property is approximately 5,000 square feet, 50 feet wide by 100 feet deep. Again, the existing use is a single-family residential in Volusia County and seeking to continue the single-family residential in the city limits of Daytona Beach Shores. This is an aerial view location map of the property, 3615 Cardinal. You can see the green is the city limits of Daytona Beach Shores. So this is contiguous on the south and east of this property. And then this is an aerial view, again, showing the single-family zoning district that exists there today and continuing that same use through the annexation process. This application has met all the notice requirements and the annexation criteria of Florida statute, and staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 2022-18 as presented.
Do I have anyone in the audience that would like to speak on 3615 Cardinal Boulevard? Do we have the owners of the property here tonight? Okay. Do I hear a motion to accept Ordinance 2022-18?
I so move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on this property? Not. Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Councilmember Plius?
Yes.
Councilmember Connell?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Thank you. Attorney Carey, can you read Ordinance 2022-19 for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance number 2022-19. An ordinance of the city of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, relating to voluntary annexation of real property located at 105 Broad Avenue. Court request identification number 52350500260, together with associated rights of way in accordance with section 171.04 Florida statutes, providing for legislative and administrative findings, redefining the boundaries of the city, providing for legal effect and implementing administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for non-codification, and setting an effective date. And this is, again, first readings and no public hearing is required.
City Plenary.
Good evening, again, Noelle Eaton, City Planner. This is Ordinance 2022-19. This is a voluntary annexation request for 105 Broad Avenue. The street view is there on the left. This property owner is James Tooley. The property size is approximately 9,000 square feet, 60 feet wide by 150 feet deep. And again, the same thing, it's an existing single-family residential use, proposing to continue that single-family residential use in the city limits of Daytona Beach Shores. This is the location map of the property. It doesn't look like it here, but it is contiguous. It will be contiguous with the south property line. As noted in the reading, we annex in half of the right-of-way abutting the property. So by this, we will annex in that half of the roadway of Broad Avenue, making it contiguous with the city limits on the south side. Another aerial of the property showing, again, a single-family zoning district continuing that single-family residential use in the city limits of Daytona Beach Shores. The notice requirements and the voluntary annexation criteria have been met per Florida statutes, and staff is recommending approval of Ordinance 2022-19 as presented.
Thank you.
If you have any questions.
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer it, but what are the implications of annexing half of the right-of-way? Do we take on the maintenance, for example, or?
Director Cruz, can you answer that?
Sure, thank you. So when we annex to the center line of any road, essentially becomes a part of our corporate limits. The actual ownership and maintenance responsibilities that we understand, and I'm looking at the legal counsel, is we don't acquire it unless there's a formal transfer by the entity that actually owns that road.
We're essentially acquiring the lines on the map, not buying any
Not the
maintenance
responsibility.
responsibilities, right?
Do we know who has the responsibility for that road?
That would be Voluntary County.
Okay.
But that would make any property owner eligible to annex into the city that abuts that land? Okay.
Correct. We grow our city limits to this property, and then if they're contiguous with this property in the future, they would be able to annex.
Are all those other properties in that enclave county properties?
The green is the city limits of Daytona Beach Shores, the white is Volusia County, and then that orange along the west side of South Peninsula is the city of Port Orange.
But everything to the east of Peninsula in white is county.
Volusia County, yes, correct.
We can start to get those in too.
Probably not for long.
That whole street could annex in.
Okay, and again, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on 105 Broad Avenue? Do I hear a motion to approve ordinance 2022-19?
Move with 2022-19.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any discussion? Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Councilmember Pelagus?
Yes.
Councilmember Famos?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Okay, next, we're going to move on to resolutions 2022-10. Attorney Carey, can you read that for us, please?
Thank you, Mayor. This is resolution number 2022-10, a resolution of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Volusia County, Florida, waiving hurricane-related local building permit fees, providing for implementing administrative actions, duration, and waiver exemptions, providing for savings provision, conflicts, severability, and effectivity.
Thank you. And Director Cruz, I'm sure you're going to tell us what is your what I'd like to know is your target for how long, when is this effective, and how long would you want it to last? And then, you know, some of the things on being on a mayor call the other day, they worded their resolution a little bit different, I think, than ours, that we want to ensure that if a contractor does not have to pay that fee, that they pass that on to the resident. Is there any way that we can be assured of that?
I'm going to look at our legal counsel there.
Attorney Carey, so, you know, I think myself, and I'm sure we're all worried that they're going to pocket the savings and not pass it on. How do we get around that?
I would want to review the county one to see what they did. At this time, I think the prudent action is to approve this resolution, give me the opportunity to look at what the county did and see if we can match up with them and bring that back, amending it at the next meeting. If we don't pass this one, then all we'll be doing is forcing people to pay fees for the next 2 weeks. So, you know, I'd be more than happy to look at the county one and see what they've been doing and if it would be best for the city to match their process.
Okay, but right now it would be okay with this. Okay, all right, and,
Madam Mayor?
yes.
I don't believe that was the county that you're referring to.
It
I
was
believe
South
that's
Daytona.
City of South
If you
Daytona.
could look.
I believe you know the city attorney?
Yeah.
Yeah, our firm
I'll
represents
introduce you to him. Yes, it was South Daytona, but yes, it was South Daytona. Thank you. Director Q, so what do you have? Do you want to explain anything, or?
Sure. And as the resolution title suggests, this would be a waiver for local building permit and inspection fees due to hurricane-related damage as a result of Hurricane Ian. So essentially, the initial time period for the duration of this waiver would be for 30 days. However, if this is approved as is tonight, the city manager and the mayor may extend the duration in increments of 30 days, not to exceed a total of 90 days for major storm-related damage and repair or reconstruction. Additionally, this particular waiver does not apply to reinspection fees. So if a contractor goes out there and doesn't know what he's doing, having him 2, 3, 4 bites at the apple, we as staff don't believe that, that's something that would be fair. Obviously you have to get a Florida licensed contractor, but as staff, we feel that the initial inspection, should be waived, but anything subsequent to that, should not. And that's staff's opinion. Any surcharges imposed by the state would also not be covered by this waiver. You notice that in the staff report, and I keep on saying the local or the city building permit and inspection fees, and that's because the Florida DBPR has a surcharge that we actually have to collect for every permit that's submitted to the city. Actually, everyone in the state of Florida essentially has to collect that fee, every building department, and they have to pass that back on to the state, so we can't waive that. Additionally, this applies to the reconstruction or repair of the structure to its previously permitted condition. So in other words, if they want to increase it, if they want to change the size or the layout or whatever have you, that would not be covered under this waiver. However, if they want to modernize it, and if they want to make it better, then obviously that would be covered as well. Additionally, there will have to be proof of storm damage. So we're requiring photographs, written verification from an insurance adjuster, from an architect, engineer, or even a local city building official or inspector as well. And that's essentially the summary of this particular resolution. We are recommending approval of this resolution, Ordinance Resolution 2022-10.
So if I'm gonna remodel my bathroom and, okay, great, I just want to
Unless your bathroom incurred
damaged,
damage,
okay.
through some sort of intrusion caused by the storm, then it would be covered correct.
Vice Mayor?
To address your concern, I have the same concern that the contractors might try to hoodwink the people with the permit fee. I think that the city should do everything they can to let the people know, let the residents know that this is being waived via our website, contact with the presidents of the HOAs and so forth, so that we disseminate this information. So when somebody comes in with a quote that includes a $500 fee for a permit or whatever, that they know that this person is somebody they don't want to deal with.
Absolutely. We'll be coordinating with the city manager's office and Nancy Maddox and our PIO to get as much information out there as possible and post in our city hall.
I'll make sure to bring it up tomorrow with coffee with the mayor. Councilman?
They still have to apply for the permit. They still have to apply for the permit.
Correct, absolutely.
And let the owner know at that time.
The contractor.
It's not the owner that's applying for the permit. It's
No, I
the
understand, but
contractor.
you'll know the owner. You can let the owner know that there was a permit fee.
Yes, if there's owner information on the permit application, we'll definitely reach out to them as well.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. What's the order of magnitude of the dollar amount? Was it based on what's it based on?
It's usually the job cost, generally, if it's a larger project, and then others are standardized.
What percentage of the job cost?
Percentage, literally 1%.
1%?
Chief building official just signal 1%.
So $10,000 is only $100.
Yes.
So it's not like
Sure, but during these times, it is,
I understand.
everything helps.
still $100.
But I can tell you from personal experience that when a contractor quotes a job, that they lie about the cost of the permit. I had some work done and the permit was $40 or $70 and they said it was $400. So people need to be aware of that.
Okay, so I need a motion on this.
Also move.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? So right now it will be 30 days, but we will extend it. Is that correct?
Yeah, the city manager and the mayor can extend it.
Sure, do you want?
I was just trying to hope our screen would catch up to where we're at. Okay, Councilmember Conmos.
Yes.
Councilmember Plius.
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer.
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. And now we're going to go on to a discussion of temporary signage for businesses. We did hear from our director here that some of the non-conforming signs took care of themselves. And in the meantime, though, there's a lot that have no signage whatsoever, and we're going to talk about temporary.
Yes, so if the council pleases, we have been getting a lot of inquiry from people, business owners essentially, who have damaged signs, and they're hoping to invoke some sort of a temporary measure. We know that even before the storm, getting a sign contractor on a job, because of COVID and everything else, they were backlogged, they were having a lot of issues or whatever have you. So considering the circumstances, staff has spoken about this, quite a lot this afternoon, I can tell you that. And we have a recommendation, and I must say that the recommendation has somewhat morphed a little bit as soon as I got other folks involved. So the city manager may not have heard all of this. So this recommendation is coming from the Community Services Department, which includes the building division as well. So what we're recommending is that the city council waives the permit requirements to allow temporary signage on commercial properties with a maximum of 2 temporary signs, assuming that 2 signs on the property have been damaged, meaning either your pole sign or your monument sign, and your wall sign. So if you don't have a wall sign, but you only have one freestanding sign, you only get one temporary sign. But if you have a pole sign or monument sign, and you also have wall signage, and both are damaged, then you get two signs, a maximum of two signs. And what we're recommending is actually a combination of either two banners or a banner and an A-frame sign, assuming that you qualify for the two. If you only qualify for the one, then you can have an A-frame sign, a 4x4 A-frame sign, or a banner. We think that most people will go ahead and utilize the banner. We are recommending that the banner at least be 32 square feet, which matches our current...
At least or maximum?
I'm sorry, maximum 32 square feet. That is what our regulations currently allow for. And the reason for that is because we wouldn't want people to go out there and actually purchase larger banners and then come back a year later and say, hey, you allowed me to do this last time, why don't you go ahead and change your ordinance and make it even bigger? Allow me to have it even bigger. We are recommending a time frame of 180 days, which is basically 6 months, and that takes you to a month before the deadline to basically replace your non-conforming sign, which is April 11th of 2023. If for some reason the property owner has been unable to fix their sign, get their sign fixed because of contractor supply chain issues, whatever have you, they can apply for a TPA or for a standard banner permit to essentially, continue with the banner usage on a temporary basis on that particular property. And again, so no permit would be required. And this is only for a maximum of two, assuming that you qualify for two temporary signage. So I'm not sure if the city manager would like to throw this extra or comment on that.
I have a question. How are you going to know whether they had one or two if they don't get a permit?
So thanks to technology, we have Google recently did a drive-through. I believe it was July of this year. And so we have access to every business frontage.
Okay. I do have one audience comments on this, and that's Linda from Daytona Diner. Would you like to come up and speak now, Linda? Okay, so you'll have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Linda Tuffelon from Daytona Diner, and I'm here because I'm one of the businesses that lost their sign. And I guess I thought that that there was a promotional thing already where you could have banners. And so if there is, then this is really, there's already one here. And I thought maybe you could expand on, what's already in place. Because, well, I was going to do I was thinking about doing the banners. I was actually thinking about doing two banners, one on, because my frame is still there, one on each side. It would be 32 square feet on each side. But when I called, it's $650 to get two banners. And I actually have banners from when I was on Beach Street. I have banners that I use during Bike Week, and those are free. But one of them is, I think it's 4 feet by 24 feet. And I know it's very big, and it certainly doesn't fit into the restrictions that you currently have. But, I just don't have, I don't know if anyone knows where my location is. I just don't even really have a place where, where I can, I have my building, I have the driveway, and then I have the sidewalk. So there's really no place you can put like a, even if you were like to do like a handmade one with the sticks or something like that, there's no place to put one where I am. With the banner, I thought I could put it on the roof of the building. So that's why I'm here. And but then this is, not the same thing, but I just wanted to say that when I was watching, the videos of everything going, I just, I was so impressed with all of the organization that was taking place for this storm. And I want to say that I'm so glad that we have this mayor, because I believe it comes from the top. And I know if I was one of the staff here, I would want to do you know, I would want to please her because she's so like organized. She loves this city, you know, and you know, you have a great staff because we have a great staff. Anyways, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So Stuart, maybe, you know, you can work with her and see what, you know, we can come up with. Maybe go out there, you or Gwen or someone, to see what we can do on that. So right now, do we just need a consensus or do we need a motion for this, attorney?
I believe that staff is asking for your guidance and some guidance for staff. I don't think there's an official motion that you're asking for, is there?
If we already have that in place, and maybe could work with Linda on, you know, our special event, whatever we can do to help her out, if you could vote on that. But right now, as far as I'm concerned, you know, since we don't need a motion, I can speak. Everything that you've suggested sounds fine to me. Does anyone else have any?
Me too.
Well, I think we want to help our businesses any way we can, as long as it doesn't have a detrimental effect. So if it works on the roof and it's not a problem, I'm fine with that.
So I'm going to look at legal counsel, but Madam Mayor, council members, I believe to sort of formalize this, you know, right now it could be considered legislation in progress, I'm guessing, but we can come back with a resolution or something, work with the city attorney's office to come up with something formal to actually enact the decision of the council tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're looking for guidance for what to include in the resolution. Since this is a temporary regulation, we can do it through resolution and not ordinance, and I don't see any reason we couldn't bring it back next week as long as you all are on board with the recommendations that we make.
Sure.
Or next meeting, excuse me.
Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're going to go on to council comments. And again, I want to remind you about the pinning ceremony for our new chief. I figured if I said it 20 times, Chief Fowler, and I did, but then I still messed up, so it might take 40 times. But anyway, congratulations again, Chief. I am going to have coffee with the mayor tomorrow. So the original intent of Coffee with the Mayor, we were going to have Representative Tom Leake and Senator Tom Wright. Unfortunately, Senator Leake will be out of town and he will not be able to be there, but we will have Senator Tom Wright. So the original intent was Senate Bill, is it DB4? 4D. And that, for any of you that lives in the condo, that was the one that related to that you had to have your condo inspected by a structural engineer, and then based on their recommendations, you had to have money in a separate reserve. I have a feeling tomorrow when Senator Wright is there, we might be changing the subject. I still would like to talk about that bill, but I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions about insurance, the hurricane, and all of that. If you have never met Senator Wright before, he's a wonderful man. He'll be glad to talk about whatever questions that we have for him. I'm going to caution everyone tonight and tomorrow. He is here because we've asked him to be our guest. I don't want anyone beating up on him because, you know, he's here to try and help us, so please be patient with him. So I'd love to see all of you here. I have a feeling we're going to have a lot of different cities here as well. For some reason, they don't seem to get a lot of audience with Coffee with the Mayor, so they start coming over here to our coffee, in which everyone is welcome. So that is my only comment this evening. Councilman Politis?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First I want to acknowledge all you people, the sacrifice you made to be away from your families, to look out for the city. So that's an amazing act, and I want to acknowledge it, and I'm sure everyone else does. But tonight's presentation, I mean, all three of you gentlemen, just precise, to the point, informative, professional, and it's reflected in, obviously, the tasks you take out. Even Noel, our new city planner, very nice, precise, to the point, very informative, and allows us to just vote accordingly. I only have one suggestion. You are going to get bombarded with a lot of questions from both commercial landowners as well as residential. You may want to put links on the website to go to FEMA, to go to DEP, if they're available. And if I don't know anything about computers, but if that's something that can be done, that would help relieve staff to do whatever they can do in other regards.
We actually already have it on our economic development site for businesses.
Oh, see, you're already thinking, see? What do you need me for? But lastly, we all spoke, throughout the storm and stuff, and, kudos to everyone that went out and got political contacts and made headway with agency representatives. And, you all are very fortunate to reside or work in the shores, because it doesn't work like this. Usually government moves like molasses. It just takes time and red tape, and people are apathetic. But here, again, life is better here, but we pay a good tax. When I pay my real estate taxes, I see the proof in the pudding. So kudos to all of you. Thank you.
Councilman?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I would mirror Councilman Politis's comments, and my wife and I have felt very blessed to be members of this community. And for all the reasons Councilman Politis said and what we've said earlier, but I would sincerely like to stand and give a standing ovation to all the city staff and the public safety officers.
I'll stand with you.
Thank you very
Anything
much.
else?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Well, a lot of the big things have been said tonight. I'd like to talk about one of the little things that makes our city great. In looking over the sandbag issue, I noticed that all of the cities that I was able to see anything on said, bring your own shovel. Daytona Beach Shores provided the shovels. Thank you for that. The little things mean a lot. When somebody doesn't have a shovel and can't figure out where they're going to get a shovel, where are they going to get their sandbags? So I think little things mean a lot, but they make a big difference.
Thank you. Councilman Bryan?
Yeah, I'll just mirror the comments that were already made. I'm not going to ask for a second standing ovation.
Okay, thank you. And we do have one audience comment. Charlie West, if you'd like to come forward, again, say your name and address, please.
Hello, my name is Charlie West. I live at 2701 South Peninsula Boulevard, or South Peninsula Drive. I'm a resident of Daytona Beach. The next street over to me is the residence of the city of Daytona Beach Shores. First of all, I want to say I'm thoroughly impressed with the city council here tonight and everybody in Daytona Beach Shores. I want to say I truly appreciate Nancy Miller, Mayor Nancy Miller, and the Code Enforcement Officer, Gwen Hairstein, who's been diligent to identify a problem I've been having, and they have dealt with my persistence with patience. And amid all the other challenges due to this recent hurricane, my statement tonight is simply to raise awareness and to have a record of this ordeal on public record. So I just want to state this is read at the City Council meeting for Daytona Beach Shores, October 11, 2022. I want to take a few minutes to raise awareness of some noise pollution that's going on in Daytona Beach Shores. There is a frequency off the chiller tower at Peck Plaza. From my recollection, it's happened, started in early September. That's when I started recording it. Before Hurricane Ian, the tone can be measured at 450 Hz for the person over there, or a high-pitched tone in the key of D. It's torturous, to be honest with you. It's made my home unlivable. I've been hearing this frequency for over a month now, and it's nonstop. It's affecting my sleep and my work and my health and my hearing. And now when I'm away from home, what's interesting is I still have the tone in my ear. I'm praying that the effect of the long-term exposure to this tone will recede. I can pitch match the tone by whistling. If you ever want to know what it sounds like without going there, I can hear it in my head without a reference from any external sound. So when I'm home, even I can still hear the external sound with the door closed in my house and the window shut. And in my home, I'm wearing noise-canceling headphones when I'm awake and when I go to bed. So I'm begging for those who can remedy this to do it quickly. I know our community has been through a lot with Hurricane Ian, and I know our resources are spread thin. But I want to thank you so much for the ability to share this, and I'm so thankful to live in, near Daytona Beach shores, and I really, really love our community here. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Charlie, appreciate it. Okay, all right, so next we'll go on what items are recommended for the next agenda. Well, actually, we will have second reading on 3 of the 4 ordinances and perhaps a first reading on 22-17. Is there any other items that we need to ask for the agenda? Okay, if not, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for coming, and I forgot to